Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We talked a little bit about why versatility is the name of the game when it comes to the Ole Miss defense this year, and Tom Vanderford stops by to talk ball. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Stick around.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Again, I am your host, Stephen Willis, and today's topic of conversation will be that versatility is the name of the game for the Ole Miss defense in 2022. It is exactly what you think going forward. And what I mean by that is, personnel-wise, the defense is going to look just like it did last year. Okay? And that is where they have players, but those players are going to play 4-3 stuff, 3-4 stuff, 4-2-5 stuff, 3-3-5 stuff, 3-2-6 stuff. All of this thing, all the three safety stuff is going to coalesce into a one cohesive defense. And mixing up right there will define the effectiveness of the Ole Miss defense. Now, the benefit of this is having a player like Otis Reese that's supremely physical. He's 220 pounds. That is essentially a strong safety, but he can play some outside linebacker, and that allows you to do some different things because of his versatility and his physicality. Tysheem Johnson, a super athlete. We told you all during last year, this guy has honey badger qualities. He's a super athlete. I mean, you could set him back up and return punts right now. You probably don't know, you probably don't see, because whenever a freshman comes in, the name of the game is paralysis by analysis. And he was probably going through some of that last year, especially since the year before he was playing high school ball in Philadelphia. But a really, really good player as well. And those are the two outside box safeties, who on a 3-4 defense will be the two outside linebackers, who in a 4-3 defense or 4-2-5 defense would be the safety and the linebacker. And different personnel groupings of what they are, is coming into focus. But the reality is the same 11 type players will be on the field at the same time. They just have the ability to call different things. Now, the one thing that makes them, that is going to make them a little bit better next year, is the defensive line and the ability to shift personnel because of the versatility of the defensive line. They're the ones that allow the back eight to do different things. It's those front three that allows you to set up in different looks. And with them signing or committing Kari Coleman, I mean, you have a 225-pound guy who, the rumor has it, he's going to get a shot in the Mark Robinson role. But I told Kara yesterday that people need to be careful about that. And I told the cautionary tale of Danny Fortson from 2005, 2006, sometime around that time, and the trouble that he had adjusting from hand on the ground to hand off the ground. And you wouldn't think it would be that much of a transition, but it was something that he simply could not do. And people need to understand exactly how that looks and what that means. And whenever you take an outside linebacker or a rush in, because at TCU, he's a 225-pound rush in the vein of Corey Moore at Virginia Tech, a little guy, designed to speed mismatches on the outside to get tackles in trouble, to force you to try and pay attention to them a little bit. And Gary Patterson was really good at doing that. He was a 4-2-5 type guy. And he did it, he would go out and get super athletes and just place them in position. And Kari Coleman fits that bill. He's a 225-pound guy that was playing with his hand down. But in this one, he's got the attributes to play middle linebacker. And that's what Ole Miss did with Mark Robinson. They saw attributes and molded him into the player that he was. And Mark Robinson's going to end up getting a cup of coffee, at least in the league. They're going to try and do the same thing with Khari Coleman and put him beside Troy Brown. And that'll be this year's team. Khari Coleman and Troy Brown will be this year's Mark Robinson and Chance Campbell. That's the idea. But that level, we told you how important that level was. We've gone over that. They allow you to do some different things. And the strength of this team is going to be something a little different. With the fact that you have two bona fide 3 techniques that you did not have before this offseason, really. All of a sudden, some 4 down becomes a possibility. The 3 technique is the player that is taken out by the 3-2-6, by the way. Yeah, I know it doesn't make much sense, but think of a 4-2-5, take out the 3 technique, which is the guy that is on, I think, outside shoulder of the guard. Not the nose guard, but the other interior defensive lineman. And that position got replaced by another speed guy. If you just look at personnel with what made this 3 safety defense, the third safety was improved by taking off a defensive line player. Now, how you fit the run is a little bit different because we told you about this defense. It really is designed to make count offenses always wrong. Because Ole Miss, made a living back when Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss, basically counting players, making box reads, and then exploiting them if the numbers were favorable. Doing one thing, that's what you would do. Well, this one will look like there's 4 players in the box on 1st and 10, but there's actually 8 players assigned to run defense. And a normal fit happens. It's just coming from different places. So you need those superlative athletes to play this position because they have to make up more territory because of these crazy reads that are going on. So I'm pretty excited about that, and the next year in the 3 safety defense should be quite effective. I'm looking forward to seeing how this defense can look and how they'll play. I want to see if Ashim Young, who came in from Iowa State, how he looks. I want to see if he's the new Jake Springer. I want to see if Ladarius Tennyson is a guy that beats people out a little bit. I want to see what happens. Does Otis Reese move down? Does Tysheem Johnson go back as a strong safety? I'm curious. There's versatility. They all are cross-trained in different positions. It's a matter of trying to make the defense as a unit a more successful unit based on the personnel. March Madness is only a few weeks away. That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual? Or are you looking for the best? We've done our homework here, and we're running brackets with runyourpool.com. Along with standard brackets, Run Your Pool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X. Both are really fun in their own way. They have options to edit scoring. They offer more intel to make your picks. All the stuff you won't find at ESPN or CBS. So clearly, we believe Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there ourselves. There's no truer test than that. If you want to play against us for a shot at a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. And this is the time of the year when I've pretty much given up on my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. This year I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. So go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It'll be delicious and it'll be good for you. At Built Bar, they know they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. So here's the offer. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor, hit subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos whenever we post them, and of course, upvote the video itself. So thank you very much for that. So we're going over the versatility of the defense and why that versatility of the defense is important. And we've talked a little bit about the defensive line. We've talked a little bit about the linebackers and how they fit in with what's going on. Now let's talk a little bit about the defensive backs. And there's actually, two sets of positions there because the way the defense played last year, over half of the defense were defensive backs. It was a very athletic thing. People that they could recruit. This was the way that Ole Miss could be successful, is in recruiting these players. These players are fairly plentiful. Everybody's been fighting over defensive linemen, an elite defensive lineman, every year because there's probably 3 of them that are truly elite. And as they started going all to Bama, Georgia, and LSU, it became really hard for teams that need those defensive linemen to compete at that same level. It was an advantage that they had. Well, in this 3-2-6 defense, it allows over half the defense to be recruited from a core of players that's actually pretty good and pretty plentiful inside the state of Mississippi. It is not hard to find 220-pound players that can run in the state of Mississippi. It is really hard to find 310-pound players that can really run and play defensive linemen in the state of Mississippi. Now, granted, Mississippi is really good at having defensive linemen and developing them and basically creating them. And the way however they do a really good job. From Mississippi State has made a living at it. Ole Miss has made a living at it, just going through and getting defensive linemen from the state. But starting a few years ago, like McKinley Jackson was a big time player. Ended up going to Texas A&M. Byron Young went from West Jones or Brian Young. I don't know which one it is. Went to Alabama. Derek Hall went to Auburn. Started to get really, really hard to get these players because everybody was going after them. And that caused their value to kind of skyrocket. So we needed to figure out a way to combat that. And what Lane Kiffin saw was what was the 3-safety defense, the 3-2-6. Because over half the defense are those players that are very plentiful in your recruiting area. Now, on the defensive line, you go out and you get a Terrence Cody type to play nose guard, a KD Hill, who did a fantastic job as the year went on to kind of clogging the middle of the field and doing that. So it's so good, in fact, that Quentin Bivens, who was the starter at the beginning of the year, he's at Southern Mississippi right now. On the outside, it's Cedric Johnson and Sam Williams. That's one player at 260 pounds and one player at like 240. So think about this. If I told you before the season that Ole Miss would be pretty good against the run with one player over 300 pounds and no players beside him over 260 pounds, you wouldn't believe me. Now, this was the problem whenever Alabama decided to play murder ball last year because they just lined up and play old-timey football. But against the spread offense, which you're going to see over and over again, teams are not really going to be able to do that. Now, if Jake Springer had been in that Alabama game, it would have been a little bit different, I think. But as it was, Alabama lined up and just ran the ball. Brian Robinson had 35 carries and 175 yards, and Alabama ended up winning the game 42-21. It is what it is, but that was a situation where Alabama figured out a way to attack this because they have the players that could pull it off. Other teams couldn't really do that. Even somebody like Auburn tried to do that, And once Ole Miss kind of figured out what was going on, the scoring stopped, period. So we'll see exactly what it looks like moving forward. I'm kind of excited to see what the Ole Miss defense looks like, because versatility is the name of the game for this team and this unit. And it's all going to start with the defensive line, I think, with this defense. And they have the personnel to run a 3-man. They have the personnel, honestly, to run a 4-man. It'll be interesting to see how they do it. If they want to do a 3-man that's really big, they can do that. If they want to do a 3-man that's a bunch of jackrabbits, they can do that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool what's out there, and kind of makes me look forward to what's coming up. So the versatility is going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be an opportunity to mad scientist some things. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcast, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor and hit subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications of new videos and upvote the video itself. I'm here with Tom Vanderford for his weekly segment, Talking Ole Miss Sports. Tom, it looks like Ole Miss is getting ready to hire Marty Biagi, or Biagi. I do not know his name. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but he's a special teams coordinator that is coming from Purdue. How you doing, Tom?
Doing great. Completely 100% trust in Lane. I know nothing about the guy, but I'm sure he's going to be a great fit.
This is the reminder that on a special teams coordinator, yes, there's special teams that have to be taught, but
right.
that is essentially a recruiter in college sports. It's a title and recruiter.
Right.
So I expect him to have some connections, possibly, I don't know exactly where, but somewhere in either Texas, California, or Florida. That's probably where his connections are going to be.
Right, yeah.
So, Tom, let's talk a little bit about baseball. Ole Miss has played 4 games. They've run-ruled 3 of their opponents. They played 1 full game this season.
Right.
Now, Charleston Southern's not very good, and Arkansas State was pretty bad. But they have VCU coming in this Saturday. What are you looking for from them with VCU coming to town?
I'm looking for more of what I've seen, hopefully. I like that, I brought this up last week. I like that we're using more we used a lot more pitchers than I'm used to, I don't know if Mike was listening to us or not, but we didn't take any starter deep into the game and with a high pitch count. So that made me feel good. The more guys that we get a season and get game experience, the better off we're going to be when we start playing the SEC slate. And I'm looking to see if we can develop some middle relievers. I think that's a key. It just seems sometimes in the past we always seem to leave our starter in 1 inning too many. And my hope is that if we get good middle relief, that'll be our go-to. So that's the big thing. Other than that, like you said, bats, gloves, not worried about them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not worried about them all. We're set. We've got a bunch of future major leaguers in our starting lineup. A bunch.
Yeah, and I think possibly when it comes to what you say, leaving in a pitcher in an inning too long, and that is a side effect of not having enough arms.
I agree.
And so you're forced to do that because you don't want to use your 3 middle relief arms on Friday because you still have Saturday and Sunday to go through, and if you overuse them, you could get in a little bit of trouble. I think this team has a little bit of depth on the pitching staff. But I want to see them play some better competition. I want to see what they do against VCU this weekend and against UCF on the road next week.
Oh, yeah. I was looking forward to UCF, but, he's not a Rebel anymore. But, the news that John Rice was, he was declared ineligible for this baseball season. I was kind of looking, for that to happen. But, UCF's a good challenge.
Yeah, and people need to realize that I believe John Rice played in the Sugar Bowl, which would have happened after the fall semester. So when the NCAA counts as the spring semester, he actually played ball for Ole Miss. And so transferring within the same semester, that's a little bit of an issue, I think. And that's probably why he didn't get his waiver.
Probably. Speaking of your stomping grounds, Tampa, how about Jordan Ta'amu? Is that awesome or what?
Oh, I'm fired up. Yesterday I wore my Tampa Bay Bandits shirt.
Yeah, I'm a Bandits fan now too.
And I have an OG shirt from the original USFL of the Tampa Bay Bandits. Oh, cool. And I also have a new shirt of the new Tampa Bay Bandits. And I did all of this before Ta'amu was selected. But this just like cements it home.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome. The only thing's missing is if Steve Spurrier would coach, the old ball coach, he was the original Bandits guy.
Mm-hmm. He invented bandit ball. That's the hashtag they still use.
Right.
But he invented the term bandit ball. Other players in the USFL, Quincy Adebayo is going to Memphis with Shea Patterson up there. So they've actually played together before.
Oh, cool.
Trey Elston's going to New Jersey, up to the Generals. Derek Jones is in New Orleans with the Breakers. And, of course, DeMarquise Gates is with the Birmingham Stallions.
Well, good. I like seeing all those guys get a shot.
Yeah, you got five teams out of 8 to choose.
That's good. I like that. I believe if Chad Kelly wouldn't have went to the CFL, he would have probably been a selectee as well. But I'm kind of glad he went to the CFL.
Well, what happened was the quarterbacks in the USFL, they make as much money as a quarterback that's on an NFL practice squad. I think in Chad Kelly, he got a regular contract that's making probably a little bit more money because the CFL is a more established league, and that's probably the reason they're doing that. That and the fact that Toronto, people forget, is like an hour away from his house.
Oh yeah, it's right across the falls, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a win-win as well. Mm. So, what do you think about our new commitment we got from TCU?
Well, the rumors are out and about. We talked about that a little bit earlier, and I talked about it on this show. But he's built as size like a linebacker because he's one of those guys that was a prototypical project by Gary Patterson. They bring in these defensive ends and they move him down early, and they actually play and use his speed as a mismatch. They're really, really fast. Well, Ole Miss obviously saw that he had a little bit of what Mark Robinson is bringing, so they're talking about potentially moving him to linebacker. And I used a cautionary tale yesterday and today about Danny Fortson, who signed with Ole Miss in like 2005 or 2006. But he's a guy that was 200 pounds, played high school football with his hand on the ground. We tried to move him to linebacker, and it didn't really translate. So I tell everybody take it with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you got to take some flyers, no problem. But I do like the way these guys have been graded in the portal. We got a 5-star, a bunch of 4-stars, and just a few 3-stars. But like Isheem Young was a 3-star, but he was a freshman. He was a freshman All Big 12, and so was this guy. As a matter of fact, I think this guy was a freshman All-American. So, when you get that kind of talent upgrade on your defense, maybe there's a place you can use them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got 4 safeties on the Ole Miss defense that are all interchangeable. They're basically the same player. So you can line up on one play, and Otis Reese can play strong safety. The next play he's playing a box safety. The next time he's playing some kind of will linebacker type position through the versatility.
Exactly.
But the same personnel's on the field.
Oh, yeah. And we got Johnson, Tysheem Johnson, Isheem Young. We're in good shape. I told somebody today, I think this is the most quality depth that we've had on defense, at least since 2015. Maybe even better as far as depth goes than that team. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the superstars, but good depth, good SEC quality depth on defense.
Yeah, if Jackson Dart wins the job, the Grove Bowl itself will be the first time that a Gatorade National Player of the Year has suited up and competed for Ole Miss on Vaught Hemingway's field.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Zach Evans is potentially the most talented player that has ever signed with Ole Miss. I know people are in love with Laramie and Patrick and all of that stuff going on, but Zach Evans is a special dude. There's a little bit of Adrian Peterson.
He was the number one. Yeah, he was the number one guy in the country right up until the very end, until they started shuffling stuff around. Just a really, really phenomenal running back.
Yeah. I think with him in the backfield, Michael Trigg and Jalen Knox are going to be in a position to have huge years because this offense, like I said, tortures linebackers. That's the whole purpose of this. If they come up hard on the run, you're going to throw it right behind them. If they're sitting back because they're worried about that, you're just going to hand it off, and it's going to slow down their fits. And it's just the secret of this offense. And because of that, Zach Evans is going to be the straw that stirs the drink. But I expect this team to be 60 or 65% run this year.
So I think so too. That's what it blows my mind. You hear it all the time from people outside of Ole Miss since Kiffin's got there. Oh, they pass. But we're a run team, man. Mm-hmm. We're a run team that also passes. So, and Kiffin's smart. He gets what they give him and changes real well. He does great adjustments, in-game adjustments. And I know a lot of people are saying Levy may have done that, but Kiffin's work slate is a lot more than just being the head coach at Ole Miss, right? So, you see a lot of the same offensive mindset, whether he was at UT or USC or FAU or Alabama or Ole Miss, So I think the tight end's going to be big. I think the run game's going to be big. And I think we've got an unbelievable amount of big, fast slot receivers. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to help us too. The only thing that worries me, in the spring, I really want to see how these guys catch the ball. Mm-hmm. I want to see how they catch the ball. I don't want to see a lot of drops. I really go ahead.
Well, in the transfer portal, I figure in my head, based on my numbers, Ole Miss has about 3 slots remaining. I've heard 4 and I've heard 2. So I'm going to plan on 3 just because of different information. Now, one of those is probably going to be Deion Smith. I think that was in the cards.
Oh, God, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
But I think he's the other wide receiver, and him and Braylon Brown, that's a special combination on the outside together. Because Braylon Brown could be really, really special. Now, if this team is good and gives Kiffin the warm and fuzzies, I think he's going to go out and get a kicker, grad transfer kicker, because Caden Costa won't be eligible until before the Egg Bowl.
Right. Yeah, he's going to get a year. There's no doubt.
And he'll redshirt this year. He'll whatever.
Yeah. Everything will be fine. Yeah, but we need a good grad transfer kicker. We really do.
And I expect them to grab a best available, somebody that hits the portal and goes after spring practice, maybe on the O-line. I'm not really expecting anything on defense. I think the defense is kind of where they are. I think it'll just be an offensive player, but I'm thinking kicker, Deion Smith, and best available.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had given up all hope on Deion Smith because of well, the internet chatter with grade issues and this and that and the other. But yeah, if we can pull that off and get him in there for fall ball, man, that's awesome because he's that deep threat we need. Well, Braylon Brown too, and J.J. Henry's a little fast fella too. So we've just we've got a chance to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
If the schedule allows us to as well, we're not playing Alabama the third game of the year.
Yeah,
We're playing winnable games the first 4 games. I mean, extremely winnable. So that gives the offense time to click and gel, the defense time to know their roles, so to speak, because we've got a lot of new faces.
And Liam Cohen leaving Kentucky hurts them as well.
Oh yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
One thing I've heard before I get out of here, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but this is something that Kiffin did at FAU. Wide receivers were allowed on the team that were, quote, problems or whatever, but they walked on, even though they were scholarship level players. And that would not require initial to be used because a walk-on wouldn't count that. And the reason I say that is pay attention to how they bring in Brew McCoy if they bring him in. Because he might not be an initial scholarship. He could be somebody that walks on for a year and he gets put on scholarship because everything went copacetic and good. That's just my opinion on that, but I think something like that could happen.
Well, he threw a lifeline to his quarterback at FAU and it worked out. That guy had a lot of problems at Oklahoma, and that's what I like about Kiffin. He'll take a flyer, and it seems like he's pretty good at straightening folks out. So,
yeah, the pro mindset thing, as a way to focus a player about trying to get to the NFL, because that's something they can look at selfishly, but it's going to cause them to behave. So that pro mindset is a big thing, and I love fun and I love competition, the 3 tenets of this program. But that is a really, really big part. And like I said, that may be where people are getting 4 from, because
right.
the numbers are a little bit tight at the moment.
Yeah, I love how he just everything he preaches to these kids is, I'm going to do everything I can do to get you to the league, and that's huge because that's what the kids want.
Yeah.
The reality, they're all not going to go to the league, but they want to know that, yeah, he's giving them that pro mindset. He's been there. He's been a head coach in the NFL, so that's a big draw that we have with Lane Kiffin.
All right. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Next week, we will continue to dig into pre-spring. We'll look at the weekend that was in Ole Miss baseball and maybe talk a little basketball. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, Tom, I appreciate you coming by. Let's do it again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you much. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.